Okay, this is the regular, actually, it's not the regular, it's a special meeting of the Board of Finance, and it's special because we were supposed to meet 2 Thursdays ago, I believe on the 15th of November, but we canceled that meeting because of that lovely snowstorm we had. So this is a special meeting because we had to move it till tonight, Tuesday, November 27th, 2018. Okay, the first item on the agenda is public comments, and seeing no one in the audience, we will move on to Administrative Officer, Director of Finance Report, Tony.
Thank you, Matt. The first 4 months of the year, we have a surplus of just under $200,000. That's about 11.2% of our budget, so we're doing well. The interest income continues to generate a surplus, about $100,000 for the year. We made a few position reductions in the budget. One is the payroll clerk and finance. Another is the library part-time bookkeeper position. So those two generate, with benefits, about $85,000-$90,000 in savings this year. And waste management has a deficit, but we hope to offset that with our fees at the transfer station. So those are our major items so far.
So when will the changes at the transfer station take place?
So there's
Is
a
that
funding
what
request
it's-
on tonight's agenda.
Okay, for
Once
the
you
scale.
approve that for the scale, we'll order the scale, have them install it. In the meantime, we're putting together the standard operating procedure for that. And I just don't know if they can do the scale. And I think it's an above ground scale, so they should be able to do it in the winter.
Okay,
And then, so hopefully in February or March.
okay.
Can
And
roll
so
that
will
out.
you give the haulers like a month's notice?
Yeah,
or-
probably, yeah.
Okay.
And we have to let the residents know too.
Right, right.
The change.
Okay,
And
Is there a charge for residents as well? or just-
no, just for the haulers.
We'll have a discussion of that one, the funding request.
Yeah, okay.
that's fine.
Yeah.
The plans are.
Fair
yeah.
enough, yep.
No, that's okay, no, just,
It's great you were able to
Yeah.
reduce those positions.
Yep.
It really is true.
We're trying to encourage departments to think creatively when it comes to their budget. And some have responded very well.
and some have not.
Some have not.
Okay, so we're in good shape as far as our fund balance, which is always good.
We
news.
are, yep.
And the status of the audit, Tony?
We're just waiting for a draft. Everything is completed.
Okay, good.
So we're in good shape there. I was hoping to have one for Thanksgiving, but
Okay.
the state is late on their, part of the audit is the MRF, our retirement
Yes.
liability, which is the state has to present with the teachers and with the MRF plan. So we're still waiting for that. I think that's the last piece.
Okay, Woodbridge Board of Ed Financial Report, Sandy, you'll cover that?
I will do that.
Okay. Outdoor pool, financial report, as you can see, and for those of you who don't know, the Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to not open the pool for 2019. But they lost $54,912.
And I want to just point out that that does not include electricity, insurance, and most importantly, the time that other departments spent at the pool, particularly Brad, who was probably there most days from during the season to help regulate the
So then the
water.
loss was
Wow.
more than
Yeah,
100,000.
yeah,
So
probably, yeah.
there's no way we can cover that. So, yeah, so there's no sense in even discussing it because it's over with.
This is the original intent was to do this in advance of your capital budget meeting so that you would
That's
Okay.
great.
be informed of that, but
Okay.
it's like took care of it.
And of course, we meet this Thursday and next Wednesday for capital budget presentations. I would tell you now that, from what I could see, Thursday's meeting will be quick, because I think there's 4, and now one of them was the country club pool, so that's gonna be gone, so
Right.
it shouldn't be very long. Matter of fact, I think the last one is the Board of Selectmen, so we don't even have to tell them to come early, Tony's gonna
The
do it.
Board of Selectmen's.
Actually,
on
we
the
changed
5th.
that to the
Changed
5th
that,
because
you
Beth,
said
Oh.
Beth wants to do it,
Oh, okay.
and I think she's not sure
Did
if
I
she'll.
get that?
I sent it out late this afternoon.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, that was.
Okay, good, all right. So then it's even easier.
Yeah.
And I will not be here on the 5th, just as a reminder.
Okay. Old Firehouse update, Tony.
So the old firehouse, this is the latest update on the budget for the old firehouse. You can see there's a $500,000 in grant proceeds, roughly $200,000 in remaining insurance funds, and to round out a budget of roughly $2 million, you need about $1.4 million in bonds if we went that route. The Board of Selectmen has met and have come up with some ideas of what they would like to see in each of the bays. And so the one piece of the puzzle we're doing is trying to work out the issue with Amity in the top floor, and an agreement with Amity to use the top floor.
Right.
And then it was the fitness in one of the bays, multi-use in another bay, and the antique fire truck in the third bay. That's roughly the
Okay.
usage of the facility.
And on the second floor, they would use that big community room?
So school would use the
Yeah.
community room during the day, most likely,
Uh-huh.
and then at night we would have use of the facility, of the community room.
Oh.
That's sort of the idea.
Okay.
Is that so that the town can use it at night, and they would just secure whatever they had in that room, and they seemed to be okay with, and the school seemed to be okay with that.
And will that involve then also renovating the kitchen area?
Right, correct.
Space?
Yep.
Okay.
So I think the idea is that we would borrow the full amount, and then we would charge them a rent to use the facility, a lease amount, so that can help to offset the cost of the bonds. So that's sort of what we're developing here.
Okay. And so recreation would only get one bay? then?
Correct. Yep.
And would there be showers then built? Or
We did not, it's not part of the
discuss
plan, yeah.
Okay, all right. The reason that, to me, that's
And the second
important-
one is a multi-use, not really a defined use to that second bay, which is the one,
on the other side
Right,
of it.
right.
And then the original first bay is still for the old fire truck.
correct.
But are they gonna make it a museum?
There was some talk of that, but
Okay.
it wasn't finalized.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important that it all be public space.
Right.
Again, this is my perspective. And I think it would be great. They want to keep the antique fire truck. It should be made available for viewing. They've got old photos. You
It's kind of
could
cool
really-
if you've ever seen it. It's
Yeah.
the antique fire truck. It's
It
kind of
is.
cool. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think it would be great if it was, public space where people could come. It actually adds to the whole ambiance of bringing, families together and, a place to go and see things.
So
Okay.
this is more of just an update.
Sure.
So, and this is sort of where we are with it. We have to have our most likely have the designs changed a little to reflect the usage in each of the rooms. Probably go out to bid again because the bids were from last spring, and then revise the budget and maybe do a eventually have to borrow money for it probably.
So is the plan for the fitness center to move from over here? Because I am gonna wanna hear from the rec commission. I'm not picking on the rec commission as far as the pool, but I know the last time we looked at the numbers who used the fitness center and the cost and the equipment,
Right.
et cetera, it was not that many people and it was quite expensive. So if you wanna prepare them,
Certainly.
they should bring with them numbers.
Okay.
How many people?
Certainly.
And I don't know if you all remember, but I said we would save a fortune if we just paid for them to join the fitness center down at Amity for $10 a month.
Right.
I mean, if there's, it wasn't even close. So, and it's a nice. I'm sure it's a nice program to have, but if it's not cost effective and it's not being utilized by enough
A lot of
townspeople,
people,
why are we we're gonna renovate a whole area down there for this thing? I mean, they need to show us that it's a viable
We'll certainly-
program.
I'll certainly let them know.
So let them know,
Yeah.
yeah, because I'll be asking.
Okay.
If they don't bring it that night, then they're gonna get it to us later. It'd be a lot easier if they just brought it during their budget presentation.
Yep.
I think the other factor is in terms of, wanting to replace equipment,
Right.
looking at that space versus what they have now. I mean, what pieces of equipment do they really
That's,
need?
we talked about that, and there are some pieces there that get a lot more use than others, and so they have to because they can't fit all that in the one bay.
Correct.
So they have to prioritize
Correct.
which ones they use the most,
Yep.
and those are the ones they'll have to move over there.
Yeah.
The rest of them will get.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so if it's those that need to be replaced, the ones that are heavily used,
Right.
fine. If it's other ones, just because they're old, I don't think that
Right,
we need to
understood.
fund that. So.
Yeah.
And they're moving over there
That's
because,
the discussion at the moment, but yeah.
because we want that the current room for something else, or because it would be nice to use at the firehouse, or?
I think one reason is to free up the rooms at the center building.
Right.
And it would
For
be
other
a smaller
things.
space, the bay would be a smaller
Yeah.
space.
Yes.
than what they have now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
In one room, instead of two.
The fire department's using the old firehouse for storage, right?
Right.
Where are they going to be storing their,
It's another question,
okay.
which you'll hear during the capital budget presentation.
Question. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say, is it really stuff they need to keep, or is it just, it's convenient? They have space there, so that'll be a discussion.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I think to get to Tom's point, the current space where the fitness center is was part of the proposed plan for renovation of the police station.
It was. Yeah.
So I don't know if that's still the plan, but
Yeah,
for them to
probably.
be able to expand, that's the logical place for them
Right.
to expand, so it's the domino effect.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Funding requests, we have several. The first one is 181904, and it's a line item transfer, and this was for to repair the tennis courts, which was something we had talked about earlier, but it wasn't funded. I guess now there's something that has to be done, so I am gonna move acceptance of line item transfer 181904, line item transfer in the amount of $25,000.
Second.
Okay, is there anything you want to mention about this, Tony?
No, this is, as you indicated, this is
Yeah.
what was cut from the budget, but then we couldn't fund it because of the problem with the overtime in the police
Yep.
department.
Yep.
And the pool improvements,
Well,
the
they-
source where this is coming from, this was for
Outdoor
the
pool.
outdoor pool. Okay,
Right.
I just wanted to make sure. Got it. No, that's great, and thank
Yep.
you very much for
Yep.
putting this forward.
Mhm.
Okay, any other questions? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next is, next is another line item transfer. And this is for the scale, which Tony will run through. I'll move acceptance of line item transfer 181905 in the amount of $12,350.
So the,
Okay, so explain that one, Tony.
so this is
What the
for
plan is, Tony.
Sure, so we have this is the funding to complete the scale purchase and installation, including software and other things that you can, will be necessary at the transfer station. The funding is coming from an account we had set up to fund the one of the compactor replacements, but we're hopeful that the revenue we receive, we can replenish this.
Okay.
So the idea is to install the scale, and we're coming up with standard operating procedures so that we can explain to folks how it's going to work, and we can publicize it and advertise it so that people are aware that it's coming in advance of when it changes over. Most likely, the haulers will pay a per ton charge to dispose of municipal solid waste, which is going to be our tip fee, because it comes to our transfer station and then it's then transported to Bridgeport. So it'll be a pass-through basically to include the tip fee, the transportation cost, and any administrative costs that we have will be paid by the haulers. So, for instance, oranges maybe in the $90 range per ton. So, and that would be just for the garbage that comes from the haulers. Most likely they'll be in tickets that you would they would pre-buy and then use.
Okay.
I think that's basically, most places do it that way. So the haulers pre-purchase tickets.
Okay.
And then the residents would still be able to bring their garbage to the transfer station. When I say garbage, I mean the solid waste,
Solid waste.
solid waste, yeah, free of charge. There are some places that do charge, but we're not contemplating that at this point.
Yeah.
So that would still be free, and then we'd be able to charge per ton for all the other items that we currently charge. $10,
Yeah.
$20.
Yeah.
You gotta go there. You gotta get a permit. You gotta come back.
So how's that gonna change?
So you can use a credit. You'd be able to use a credit card up at the transfer
Okay,
station.
good.
So you don't have to pre-buy a permit. If we do some permitting system where people can get permits and not have to go into the
Like I know
office.
if you bring
So, yeah.
if you bring like a dehumidifier that's got Freon in it.
Right, stuff like that.
Right, so you'll be
Yeah.
able to pay right up there.
Up there, yeah. No cash, but
Yeah.
credit transfer.
Well, actually, when I go up there sometimes, I just bring a check. And he accepts it.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, as long as it's not cash, we discourage
But
that.
the important thing is, it's,
Make it more efficient.
nothing is
for
gonna
people.
change for the
No,
townspeople. They
No.
can still go up there. There might, at some
Maybe a
point down the
pass-through.
road, there might be a,
There may or may-
change in hours or whatever.
yeah, well, there may or may not be a pass-through cost from the
Yeah.
hauler. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know about that.
My guess is they will.
Right, but I think when the initial information gathering was done,
Right,
they're charging our residents what they charge
Everybody else.
everybody else.
Right,
So there is
correct.
no need
Right.
for them to have an
I
increase.
doubt it's a one-to-one.
You're
I
right.
mean, maybe a slight one, but I doubt it'll be one-to-one, yeah.
But
What-
I
what
think
could-
that the town residents should know about this
Absolutely.
Yeah.
and that they should push back
Yeah.
about any increase.
That's a good point. We should-
Absolutely.
We should maybe
Seriously.
do a newsletter or something
Yeah,
on that
yeah.
and send it out to
We've
people.
been discussing it with Sheila.
yeah.
She's put together information for us.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah, oh, they've just been making
Yeah.
a lot of money off
Yeah,
of Woodbridge.
right. We've been too easy on that one. so.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
All right, so then what happens, excuse me, what, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, no.
All right, so what happens now is a truck comes in, he drives on the scale, we weigh him.
Right.
Then he
Empties it in the,
empties it, and
Yeah.
we weigh him, and we know how much.
the difference is how much it was on
So
the
is that
truck.
two scales or they,
No,
No, they
they'll
swing back around.
come
They
back
come
around.
back
So
around.
we had to
Yeah.
design it so the path of the scale was that you can go on it, go in, dump, come back around, get on it again, and then leave.
Yeah.
And I'm
So
sure
if
they're
it's
used,
just a
I'm
haulers,
sure they're used to this.
if it's just a haulers, it doesn't create a backup at the,
No,
at the scale.
no, 'cause they
Because
come-
if you're weighing everybody who comes in, then there's a
Oh,
huge
yeah.
backup.
Oh,
That's,
no,
that's a
yeah.
problem
Yeah,
sometimes.
You can't.
I don't think people.
We have to offer them.
So there's like a bypass lane where the residents could just go by if they're not using the scale.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so many towns pay for picking up trash. We don't pay for it,
Right.
so we should at least have
Right.
the availability for people to go there and
Yeah.
drop their stuff, so.
Yeah.
So I have two other questions.
Sure.
One is, was there an RFP for the scale?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the total cost for the scale?
This is the total was 82.
Okay.
We had
so
70,000 in the budget.
70,000 from the capital budget.
Right.
So this is just the difference.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
That should get paid back really quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anything else?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's number two. Number three is, we removed the diesel underground tank and now we have to monitor it at a cost of $21,000.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. We
Where
only
was
got
this
one
diesel
year
tank?
when we didn't have to pay for monitoring of
Where was this
anything.
So
Well, you know, let's.
put it on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve request for funding 181906 in the amount of 21,000.
second.
Okay.
So
Which diesel tank?
so we have a number of underground tanks. Most of them are for oil water separators. There's two in the
Right.
the new firehouse. There's several in the public works facility that are when you wash the truck off, it separates it, and then. But then we still had 1, 2, 3. There were still 4 tanks that were fuel or diesel tanks that were underground before we switched to natural gas. Okay, that we have. So there was 5. We got rid of 1 over at the center building a few years ago. So there was 2 here at the town hall. 1 for diesel fuel for the generator. We replaced an underground tank with an above ground tank. It's out there if you look. And then we had 1 for fuel oil that we used to use before we hooked up to natural gas. So we took those two tanks out of the ground. Fuel oil tank, there was no problem. It was the diesel tank for the generator. And the tank wasn't compromised, it wasn't cracked or anything. It was just probably from overflows.
Seepage.
People, they get filled, spills,
Yes.
goes into the ground. There you go. So it was just localized at the tank site. We tested several other areas and there were no hits. So it's just right at the tank, so it was evidence of a spill when,
And so this is by state statute, we have to do this.
we have to go out, we have to monitor, and
How long do you have to monitor?
you had 2 years of clean data. So
So we removed all the
below the
contaminated soil?
Right.
We removed all the contaminated, right?
Yeah. So there's water and there's soil monitoring.
Yeah,
The water monitoring is the one that's highly regulated, and that's the one you need 2 years of clean.
Results.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it should just be a few years, and
all right,
then so there's 2 left.
all right, good.
There's 1 at the country club that's used still for heating oil. Everything when you talk to.
Gift that keeps on giving.
And there's 1 at the school that Beecher School that is not used, but hasn't been removed yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one by one.
Yeah, so
Right.
Now, does this go out to bid also, or is this like a state contract?
a lot of it is, this is, testing actually from, Joe Sanavasi.
Joe Sanavasi.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of it's, a lot of the other stuff we used, we went out to bid for, got pricing on. Most of it's for the testing agency actually, to test the stuff.
Okay, any other questions? All those in favor?
Need a second first.
I
Oh,
second.
second.
I second.
Tom seconded it, yeah.
I'll be noisier.
Yeah, yell it out, Tom. All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there plans to get rid of that one at Beecher?
I believe,
It's
they
in
said
their
it's in,
capital plan.
yeah, it's in their capital plan to get rid of it in 2 years, I think.
Okay, next we had a police vehicle which was totaled in an accident, and in order to buy a new one, we have to come up with, over the insurance proceeds, $6,238, which is being transferred from a couple of other accounts, so it's not coming from our contingency. So I will move acceptance of line item transfer 181907 in the amount of $6,238. Any questions on that?
I could, the one good news here is that in the capital budget, they were gonna just request one car, cause
Oh,
this is
good.
gonna replace one of the cars.
Oh, that's good.
Excellent.
That's good.
Yep.
Okay, anything else? All those in favor? Aye? Okay. And finally, it's a hot water heater, is that what we?
Yep, hot water heater.
Let's see. Due to unexpected failure of a hot water heater, this line item is short of funds. So, this is the fire department, right?
Right.
So I'll move acceptance of request for funding 181908 in the amount of $10,280.
Second.
Any comments? Okay.
I mean, right now, it's not functioning, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
do they not have any hot water?
No, they had
there?
to, they had to put the hot water heater in,
Okay.
because they wouldn't have hot water.
Emergency.
This is
That's
more of
what
an
I thought.
emergency situation.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Okay, good. And that is the funding request. Approval of minutes. October 18th was our regular meeting, and I will move acceptance of the minutes of October 18th as presented.
Second?
Any corrections, adjustments, anything at all? No? Okay, all those in favor? Aye? Opposed?
I'm
Abstained?
abstaining.
Okay. And this was the walking tour of Beecher Road School on October 22nd, and I will move acceptance of the minutes of the walking tour as presented.
Second.
Any discussion on these? All those in favor?
Aye.
And I'll abstain. Proposed meeting dates. Obviously, as has happened tonight, these can change, but I think Karen wants us to vote on these, right?
We can, yeah, just take these and we'll vote on them in December.
Okay, sounds good.
Just check your calendars.
First selectmen's report, will not happen tonight. Liaison reports. Very quick meeting at Amity on November the 12th. Wasn't quick after our meeting, but nothing, honestly, nothing to report. Slight increase in the surplus. They're at 656,000 through October. But the health insurance reserve, which produced the biggest part of those surpluses, they've cut that back. So you're not going to see a $3 million surplus this year. So, and other than that, there's really nothing.
They've talked about plans to use that surplus or not?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I think they've come to the realization that the towns, when there's money left over, they want it back. So I think they've come to that. And so
Okay.
Was the new superintendent? at
no,
the meeting?
I haven't seen her. She's there now though.
Oh, okay.
She came right after the hullabaloo over the anti-Semitism.
And just in time for the storm.
That was
so-
the 12th. Yeah, right. She came on the 15th, which was the night of the storm. And she's got a long trip. She must have had fun getting home that night.
Yeah.
So I haven't met her yet, but I'm sure I'll meet her at the next meeting. Paul, you have anything?
Yeah, the police commission met on the 13th, and we have one condition to offer out to a new officer, waiting to hear on acceptance. The carport project is moving along nicely. I think the materials were delivered as of that meeting.
Started yesterday, I think,
Really?
making the,
Excellent. Good.
coring the,
Great.
Good. And we currently have 3 officer positions open, which may be filled by this offer. One of them may be filled by this offer, but we have an officer retiring and so on. So we're a little bit short-staffed, which is impacting our overtime and so on. I think that's all for the police commission. The EMS commission met on the 19th. And a couple of things were brought up. Bethany seems to make a lot of calls to EMR, well, for emergency service. And when AMR is here and available, the state requires that they respond. Okay, about half of those calls are canceled. Okay, so we have we as the town is paying, $300,000 a year
To
for
have a
AMR.
dedicated, right?
And Bethany seems to be taking advantage of that. But the regulatory requirement is, if AMR has availability, they do have to respond. So they're kind of piggybacking onto our,
Really?
yeah.
They have their own ambulance, don't they, Bethany?
Do they? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, they have an ambulance,
Yeah.
yeah.
well, they need a paramedic.
Yeah.
A car but no driver.
So that may be an issue that maybe
Yeah, it's something we gotta look
maybe
into.
Beth can discuss with them at her
Something we
level.
have to look into,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, like you said, we pay to have a dedicated truck
Right.
here at all times.
Right.
So
And
AMR's claim is that
Well, they have to.
they backfill
they do. Yeah.
if our leaves Woodbridge, they send one in from somewhere else.
Yeah.
From
which-
Orange or
Orange or
Haven
something.
Which could be less of a response time, too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Their response times have been consistently good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there was 1 month this year where they missed on the priority 1, but that's all. Statistically, they're doing very well, going back many, many years. And they do. The commission does a very meticulous job of tracking that over long periods of time. So their numbers have been pretty good, despite the fact that they're called away
Yeah,
from Woodbridge.
definitely something to look into.
So the commission did vote to recommend that we renew the AMR contract. And I think that was it for EMS.
Good, thank you. Tom, anything?
There was a fire commission meeting on the 19th. I was out of town, so I have not
Okay.
heard what. They were going to talk about the capital budget, so I'm assuming that they
We'll
did
see.
that.
We'll see
We'll
on
hear
the-
about it.
yeah, that's, well,
Sandy?
I attended the library commission meeting on November 13th, and the Friends of the Library are looking for sponsors for doing mini golf again in 2019. So if there are any individuals or businesses who would like to sponsor a hole, it's $250 for a hole. It's basically a fundraiser for the Friends, and the Friends actually give their money to the library. The commission also approved revisions to 2 policies. One is a meeting room policy, and just to let everybody know, they basically prioritize who has access to the meeting room. And I think that that's worth reviewing. There's 4 different ways that they divide up people who request a meeting room. The first is a group that's affiliated with or sponsored by the library. The second is a group affiliated with or sponsored by the town of Woodbridge. The third is a Woodbridge-based group. All of those are in priority order in terms of who actually can get access. They can reserve the community room up to 3 months in advance. All other groups, because it is open to other groups to reserve, can only reserve within a month, so that the priorities are for Woodbridge and town-based groups. They also did approve revision and expansion of their circulation policy, which will really help the staff in terms of, not just prioritizing who, can take out what, but for how long, and the policy hadn't been revised in a number of years. They actually did get 2 new boilers installed, so now they have 3 functioning boilers, which should last them for a long time. The dehumidification issues will be dealt with in the spring.
Yep, equipment's on order.
Which is great.
Yep.
And I guess the Board of Selectmen know, but the tree in the courtyard, which is kind of a long-standing symbol of the library, is diseased and it has to be cut down.
Oh, God.
Okay. I attended the Board of Education Facilities Committee meeting on the 14th, and this is where they kind of went over the status of all their ongoing facility projects. One of the questions they actually have for the town is about replacing all the LED light bulbs.
Right, we're actually looking into doing that.
Okay, so is that something that they should wait for the town, or should they just go
We're trying
ahead
to
with their own
coordinate it
plan?
with, no, we want to coordinate that with other town buildings and with the parking lot at the firehouse.
Okay, so
So,
I'll let them know
yeah,
that it
I
should
actually
actually.
talked to them about it a week ago or so.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, that's great. One of the things that was brought up at this meeting is that the school is gonna have capacity issues. Now, they're projecting 850 students, but the issue is how many classrooms they need, not necessarily how many students. Because obviously, in the past, they've had up to 1,000 students. So, and they, put kids' classrooms in trailers, which they can't do anymore for security reasons. So they're really gonna have to look into this on a longer term basis in terms of what they do. ESG, which is the energy savings contractor, gave a final report on October 31st, I believe. And they did state that all the energy savings that were anticipated were achieved. And so the question is whether or not should they continue to pay for this type of an assessment. And their feeling is probably not. They actually don't do any type of detailed data analysis. They're just kind of looking at the overall figures.
Sorry, Sandy, they ESG or
ESG.
they the?
ESG.
Okay.
The issue about whether to continue with year 2, I had suggested to them that, they actually talk with you, Tony, and Beth, just to kind of let you guys know what they're thinking about. The issue is that if you kind of contest what they say, that you actually didn't achieve what you needed to, then they'll go in and do the analysis.
Right.
And any changes that you make to the system, quote, count against you in the fact that, well, you changed this, you changed that, so of course you didn't achieve the savings. And we know that there are going to be changes based on this next report. So that's what I think. They will wait for the results of the Van Zelm report, which I think were supposed to be delivered last week, but I
We have a
haven't seen
draft.
anything. Okay. And
It's complete except for the pool Dectron unit.
okay, all right. But I would prefer that everybody hear about the results of that from the superintendent, like not through me.
Right, right.
But there does need to be clarification of responsibility for the pool. And I think that Bob Gilbert and Al, Vito, Tony, you and Brad, we're gonna, really try to formalize that. The locker room's been cleaned and painted. That's been done, and they're just waiting for fixing the Dectron unit. So, and they talked about how to communicate the status of this, the cause of it, in terms of letting town residents know.
So the pool is still closed?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think there's
It
an
is.
inspection.
Yeah.
Maybe
And
tomorrow or?
who is being
I
held
think it's tomorrow
responsible?
afternoon.
Who's being held responsible for this deck training? Because I heard that it was installed improperly,
We still haven't heard yet from the engineer.
and the fact that it was off kilter, the bearings were not going straight up and down or whatever, and that's why they all wore out. Whoever installed it incorrectly. That's been, I guess the manufacturer came and inspected that.
Yeah.
And that's MCOR, I think, installed it? Is it MCOR?
I think so.
Yeah, so, well, again, I'll be asking questions.
Yeah.
Right. They're still to be determined.
Right,
I
that's
think.
the only part of it's not complete yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And then I was not able to attend the finance committee meeting on the 20th, but in terms of.
Why?
I actually
You're
went to.
retired,
I
Sandy.
went to Cleveland
Good
to
for
see
you.
my father.
Good for you.
We actually
What's strikes
drove. We
Oh,
took-
really?
Yeah, yeah.
Drove to Cleveland.
Yeah.
Wow.
How long a
We had a
drive is that?
movable feast. I basically took my kitchen and just took it to Cleveland. So. Anyway, but their forecast for year end is up by about $30,000. It's up to $205,000. 50% of that amount is special ed. That's remained relatively stable for right now. The other are all the facility related expenses in terms of Van Zelm, Surf Pro, what happened with the pool, all of those things. And that's it.
Okay, anything else, anybody? I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor? All right, we'll see you Thursday, and I'm gonna assume unless something crazy comes up, it's not gonna be a very long meeting.
No, I doubt it.
Yeah.
Yeah.